My name is Faye McGee. I'm 31 years old, and for 7 years, I believed I was married to a man I truly knew. Looking back, I should have known something was wrong the moment my husband suddenly cared about plants. Not in a casual, hey, let's put a fern by the window kind of way. I mean obsessed. Watching gardening videos on YouTube late into the night. Talking about soil pH like it was dinner conversation. Using phrases like native perennials and raised beds as if he'd been studying for a certification exam. This was the same man who had killed every plant we'd ever owned. 7 years of marriage, and every succulent cactus or supposedly unkillable houseplant that entered our home had died under his care. He either forgot to water them completely or drowned them out of guilt. After the third casualty, I stopped buying plants altogether. So when, last spring, he announced that he wanted to redo the backyard, I didn't panic. At first, I travel for work, industrial procurement consulting. A few days here, a few days there. The money was good enough that we lived comfortably in a quiet neighborhood just outside Indianapolis. The house itself was mine, purchased years before we married, with inheritance money from my grandfather. My parents had insisted on a prenup before the wedding. My husband signed it without hesitation. At the time, I thought that meant trust. He worked part-time at a dental office doing administrative scheduling. He'd floated between passions for as long as I'd known him: painting, yoga, pottery, each one burning hot for a month before quietly disappearing. I'd supported every phase, encouraged him to find himself, even when it meant spending money on hobbies that never stuck. So the gardening phase felt familiar. Except this time, it didn't fade. It intensified. Every night, he sat on the couch with his tablet, taking notes, measuring the yard, testing soil samples like a scientist. He'd show me articles about companion planting and irrigation systems, eyes bright with a kind of excitement I hadn't seen directed at me in a long time. I smiled, nodded, told him I was happy he'd found something that energized him. In late March, over dinner, he finally laid out the plan. I want to redo the entire backyard, he said. Raised beds, vegetable garden, flower borders, the whole thing. I paused, then smiled. That sounds great. It'll be expensive, he added quickly. A few thousand, at least. We can afford it, I said, if it makes you happy. He stood up, walked around the table, wrapped his arms around me from behind, kissed my cheek, and told me I was the best wife in the world. I remember feeling proud of that moment. 2 weeks later, he said the project was too much to handle alone, that he needed professional help, someone who knew what they were doing. I didn't argue. I traveled too often to spend weekends digging trenches and hauling soil. Find someone reputable, I told him. Get quotes. I trust your judgment. That's when Evan entered our lives. Mid-20s, athletic, confident. Wore work boots and sleeveless shirts like a uniform. He came highly recommended, had solid reviews, and offered a reasonable quote. The first time I saw him, nothing about him set off alarms. At first. The first few weeks were uneventful. Evan showed up on time, worked steadily, left by mid-afternoon. My husband would check on the progress, bring him water, make polite conversation. The yard started transforming, slowly but impressively. Then I started noticing changes. On days Evan was scheduled to come over, my husband suddenly tried again. He showered early, did his hair, wore fitted athletic shorts and tank tops he hadn't touched in years. There was an energy to him, anticipation, that didn't exist on any other day. When I mentioned it once, gently, he snapped. So I'm not allowed to want to look good in my own house now? I dropped it. Then there was the phone. He'd always been online, but now it was constant. Screen angled away from me. Notifications turned off. A new passcode he never shared. If I walked into the room, the screen went dark. By late May, the physical distance crept in. We'd always had a solid relationship in that department, consistent, affectionate. Suddenly, there were excuses. Headaches, stress, early nights. When I suggested seeing a doctor, he brushed me off. I'm fine, he said. You're reading too much into this. But I wasn't. I felt it when I came home from work trips and he barely looked up, when he stopped asking about my day, when evenings were spent outside in the yard or locked in the bathroom with his phone. One night in early June, I muted the TV and turned to him. Can we talk for a minute? He sighed. About what? About us. You feel distant. I'm just busy, he said flatly. You're overthinking. But we weren't fine. I knew it. And somewhere behind his irritation, I think he knew it too. I just didn't know yet how badly everything was about to fall apart. By the end of June, the backyard no longer looked like the same space I'd bought years ago. It was lush, structured, intentional. Raised beds filled with vegetables I didn't even know how to cook. Flower borders that looked like they belonged in a magazine spread. My husband posted photos constantly, carefully framed shots, perfect lighting, captions about hard work paying off. What stood out to me wasn't the garden. It was him. On days Evan came over, my husband checked the calendar obsessively. He woke up earlier, showered longer, straightened his hair, picked outfits with care. He moved through the house like someone waiting for something to begin. On days Evan didn't come, he barely got out of pajamas. That contrast sat heavy in my chest. I was traveling more than usual that summer. Big contracts, client expos, 3 days here, 4 days there. I told myself that maybe the distance was my fault, that maybe I'd missed something, that maybe this was just what marriage looked like after 7 years. But doubt doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It grows teeth. In early July, I had a 3-day work trip scheduled in Cleveland for an equipment expo. I told my husband weeks in advance. He nodded, barely reacting. The night before I left, I tried one last time. I cooked dinner, his favorite. Suggested we watch a movie together like we used to. He ate quickly, said he was tired, and went to bed before the credits even rolled. I sat alone on the couch, the glow of the TV reflecting off the walls, wondering when exactly I'd become invisible in my own marriage. Wednesday morning, I flew out early, landed in Cleveland by 9. The expo was loud, crowded, demanding. I shook hands, smiled, talked numbers, took notes, but the entire time, something felt off, like a thread pulling tight in my gut. That night I called him. He answered after several rings. "Hey," he said, distracted. "How's everything?" I asked. "Fine, just tired." That was it. No questions, no warmth. The call lasted barely a minute. I stared at my phone afterward, a hollow ache settling in my chest. Thursday morning, I woke up before my alarm, heart racing for no clear reason. During a break between presentations, I logged into our phone account. I don't know what I expected, maybe reassurance. What I saw made my hands go cold. His texting activity had tripled over the past 2 months. One number stood out. Hundreds of messages, late nights, early mornings, messages sent minutes apart, day after day. A number I didn't recognize. I sat there in the middle of a crowded convention hall, noise fading into static as the truth pressed in. This wasn't in my head. I thought about calling him, confronting him right there. But if I was wrong, I'd look paranoid. And if I was right, calling would just give him time to erase everything. So I made a decision. I told my boss there was a family emergency, booked the earliest flight home that evening, landed back in Indianapolis around 9:30 and checked into a hotel instead of going home. Evan did maintenance work on Fridays. I didn't sleep that night. Friday afternoon around 4:30, I pulled into my driveway. Evan's truck was parked on the street. That alone wasn't unusual, but the house felt wrong. No music, no TV, no movement. Too quiet. I walked inside, heart pounding, and went upstairs. Our bedroom door was half open. I pushed it the rest of the way. And there they were, in my bed. The bed I'd slept in for 7 years. The bed I'd paid for. The bed we'd shared our life in. My husband was on top of him, both of them naked, so consumed that they didn't even notice me at first. The room smelled like sweat, and the perfume I'd bought my husband for Christmas. Clothes were scattered everywhere. Evan's work boots by the door. My husband's athletic shorts draped over the chair where I sat every morning putting on my socks. The audacity hit harder than the betrayal. This wasn't a hotel. This wasn't a mistake. This was comfort. They froze when they finally saw me. My husband scrambled back, grabbing the sheet, his face draining of color. Evan sat up, eyes wide, like a child caught stealing. For a moment, no one spoke. Then something in me snapped. I didn't feel rage the way movies describe it. I felt hollow, cold, detached. I stepped forward and hit Evan. Once, twice, again. He didn't fight back, just covered his face, shouting for me to stop. Blood spilled onto the white sheets my husband had insisted were an investment. When I stepped back, Evan was crying. "Get out," I said calmly. "Get dressed and get out of my house." He didn't argue, pulled on his clothes with shaking hands and fled. Then it was just the two of us. I waited for an apology. Instead, my husband went on the attack. "I was just helping him," he said defensively. "His family is far away." "God, Faye, you're so racist." I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was absurd. "You're never here," he continued sharply. "You're always traveling. What did you expect?" I expected my husband not to cheat on me in my bed, I replied. He scoffed. Don't act like you're perfect. That was when I ended it. Pack your things, I said. You have 20 minutes. His face went pale. This is my house, too. No, I said quietly. It's not. And for the first time that day, I felt completely in control. The moment the front door closed behind him, the house felt different. Quieter, lighter, like something rotten had finally been cut out. I didn't cry. Not that night. I stood in the bedroom for a long time, staring at the wreckage, sheets stained with blood and perfume, the imprint of two bodies where only one marriage had existed hours earlier. Then I walked downstairs, picked up my phone, and called a locksmith. Within 2 hours, every lock on the house was changed. While he was gone, stuffing clothes into suitcases and muttering about how unfair I was, I'd already decided something. I wasn't going to argue, I wasn't going to beg, and I wasn't going to negotiate with someone who'd made a conscious decision to betray me. When he came back later that evening, it was only to grab the rest of his things from the porch. Anything left behind, I donated. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the past 2 months over and over. Every excuse, every late night, every moment I'd convinced myself I was imagining things. By morning, I had clarity. The first call I made was to my friend Melissa, a corporate attorney. Divorce wasn't her specialty, but she knew people. By noon, I had a referral and an appointment for that afternoon. The divorce attorney was sharp, calm, and terrifying in the best way. She reviewed the prenup, the deed to the house, my financial records. She asked a few questions, then leaned back in her chair. This is clean, she said. With the prenup and documented infidelity, this won't be complicated. He'll get half of whatever was jointly earned during the marriage. That's it. I hired her on the spot. By the time I got home, I was already in motion. I separated our joint bank account, moving my share into a new account he couldn't access, removed him as an authorized user from every credit card, changed passwords on everything, utilities, streaming services, cloud storage, email. That's when I found the evidence. Screenshots, messages, photos. Months worth of texts between him and Evan, starting in May. Flirting, planning. Explicit photos they'd taken in my house while I was traveling for work. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my phone. I saved everything. Organized it by date. Backed it up in 3 different places. My attorney told me to keep it all, and I listened. Then I made one more call. Evan's company. I explained exactly what had happened. Canceled the contract immediately. Refused to pay for the remaining maintenance. The owner was mortified. Apologized repeatedly. Offered a partial refund. I took it. 2 days later, I left an honest review online. No names, no emotion, just facts. Within 24 hours, other comments appeared. Similar stories, similar behavior. Evan wasn't a one-time mistake. He was a pattern. By the end of the week, he was fired. My ex, meanwhile, started calling. Voicemails, texts, messages that all sounded the same. We need to talk. You're overreacting. I can explain. I didn't listen. I blocked his number. On Wednesday, a process server found him at a friend's apartment and served him the divorce papers. He called from an unknown number, crying, saying he couldn't believe I'd actually done it. I blocked that number too. Then his lawyer got involved. He wanted spousal support, half the house, a share of my retirement. My attorney shut it all down. The prenup was airtight. Over the next few weeks, they tried everything, claiming duress, claiming unfairness, claiming he'd supported my career. The judge wasn't buying it. Neither was I. While the legal battle dragged on, I started hearing things through mutual friends. He'd bounce from couch to couch, burned through Goodwill fast, complained about me constantly, painting himself as the victim. But stories have a way of correcting themselves. People asked questions, compared notes. Eventually, the truth came out. And once it did, support quietly shifted back to me. By the time his lawyer stopped filing motions, he was already drowning in legal fees for a case he couldn't win. And I was done feeling guilty. Because for the first time since all of this began, I wasn't reacting anymore. I was moving forward. By late August, the garden had started to die. Not all at once, just little signs at first. Yellowing leaves, wilted stems, beds that had once been full and vibrant, now looking tired and neglected. I didn't touch it. I let it rot. The divorce process moved forward exactly the way my attorney predicted. Every attempt my ex made to challenge the prenup failed. The judge barely entertained his arguments anymore. By the 3rd rejected motion, even his lawyer sounded exhausted. That was when I started hearing whispers. It began with a mutual friend pulling me aside at a coffee shop, lowering her voice like she was sharing a secret. "Have you heard about him?" I hadn't, and I didn't ask. But the story found me anyway. A clinic visit, test results, a diagnosis he hadn't expected. Not life-threatening, but humiliating. Painful, expensive. The kind of consequence no one thinks about when they're sneaking around behind their spouse's back. Evan had been seeing other men at the same time. My ex hadn't known. None of them had. When he tried to confront them, looking for sympathy, maybe solidarity, he didn't get it. He got blame, mockery, public humiliation. One of them posted vaguely on social media about karma catching up, and everyone in our circle knew exactly who it was about. The comment section was brutal. People he'd known for years laughed, made jokes, told him he deserved worse. Within a week, he deleted all his social media accounts. But humiliation wasn't the worst part. The treatment wasn't cheap, and his part-time job's insurance barely covered anything. Antibiotics, follow-up appointments, tests, bills stacked up fast. He tried reaching out to Evan. Blocked! So he took out a personal loan. High interest, awful terms, no other choice. Around the same time, his remaining friends started cutting ties. No one wanted to be associated with that level of chaos. Invitations stopped. Calls went unanswered. He tried to go back to his old counseling job. They declined the moment they ran references. The dental office let him go in early October. Officially, budget cuts. Unofficially, patients had complained. Didn't want someone with that kind of reputation scheduling their appointments. Unemployment denied. No job, medical debt, a loan he couldn't pay. And a divorce he was still trying to win. The final hearing came in late October. 30 minutes. That's all it took. The judge reviewed the prenup, confirmed the division of assets, and finalized everything. I kept the house. My retirement accounts remained untouched. He received half of what little joint savings we had left. That was it. Clean. Final. He tried to speak to me in the parking lot afterward. I didn't stop walking. I didn't look back. By then, I was already moving on. Not dating yet, just breathing again, sleeping through the night, laughing with friends without that tight feeling in my chest. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. 3 months later, in January, I was in the garage on a quiet Saturday afternoon, organizing tools I hadn't touched in years, when I heard a car pull into the driveway. I didn't recognize it at first. Then I did. That old sedan, dented bumper, peeling paint on the driver's side, the same car he'd driven away in the day I kicked him out. My first instinct was to shut the garage door and pretend I hadn't seen anything. But it was too late. He was already out of the car, walking up the driveway with his shoulders hunched, hands shoved into the pockets of a jacket that looked 2 sizes too big. He looked smaller, thinner, worn down. His hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. The confidence he used to carry, used to weaponize, was gone. "You need to leave," I said before he could open his mouth. "Please," he said quietly. "Just hear me out. 5 minutes." I looked at him, really looked. This was the man I'd built a life with. The man who'd shared my bed, my home, my future, and then burned it all down for a thrill. 2 minutes, I said. That's all you get. He let out a shaky breath like he'd been holding it for weeks. "I know I messed up," he said. "I know what I did was wrong. I've had a lot of time to think. I just wanted to apologize in person." "You already apologized," I replied, over text, multiple times. "I know," he said quickly, "but I needed to see you, to say it face to face." "Okay," I said flatly. "You've said it. Is that it?" He hesitated, then his voice cracked. "I'm not in a good place right now, Faye." There it was. The loan payments are killing me. Rent's overdue. I'm working 2 jobs and still barely getting by. I just need some help getting back on my feet. I almost laughed. "You want money?" "Just a loan," he said quickly. "I'll pay you back, I swear. I just need enough to cover the medical bills and catch up on rent." "No," I said. He blinked. "No?" "No," I repeated calmly. Tears welled in his eyes. "I have nobody. All my friends are gone. My family doesn't even know the full story because I'm too ashamed to tell them. I just need someone who understands." "I understand perfectly," I said. "You're dealing with the consequences of your choices." "That's not fair," he whispered. "It's exactly fair," I replied. "You cheated, you lied, you blamed me, and then you kept making bad decisions. None of that is my responsibility." He wiped his face with the sleeve of his jacket. "You're really not going to help me?" "Not a chance." He stood there crying, shoulders shaking, not even arguing anymore. Just waiting, hoping I'd cave. I didn't. Neighbors had started watching. Mrs. Patterson from 2 doors down was definitely filming on her phone. "Good. Let them see." "This is heartless," he said weakly. No, I said, it's realistic. I have nowhere else to go. That sounds like a you problem. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You had friends. You alienated them. You had a job. You lost it. You had a wife who supported you, and you threw that away for a man who ruined your health and ghosted you. You did all of that, not me. He flinched. Get off my property, I said, before I call the police. He didn't argue. He turned, walked back to his car, sat there for a long moment, maybe hoping I'd stop him. I didn't. He drove away. I went back to organizing my tools. Later, I heard through mutual friends that he'd tried the same thing with 2 other exes. Same story, same tears, same request for money. Both said no. That was over a year ago. I haven't heard from him since. Last I heard, he moved to another city, trying to start over where no one knew his story. The loan followed him, of course. Debts like that always do. As for me, I'm good. In October, I started dating Mark. He's steady, kind, grounded. No games, no drama. We met at a work conference months after the divorce was finalized. Took it slow, built something real. The garden out back is gone now. I had it removed entirely. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is dig up what poisoned your life, root and all, and start fresh.